Welcome everyone, good day, good morning, afternoon and evening. Today is Sunday. We have for us, after checking the changes to Priest yesterday, the long-awaited update to the Priest talent trees of Dragonflight, we now have the changes to the Druid talent trees, the other of the class that felt like it was left behind a little bit more. Now, Druid has not received as many changes as Priest did. The General Tree of Druid has been left kind of on its own for now, and then Guardian and Balanced Druid for now have not been changed too much. The main changes for Druid happened to Feral and to Restoration. These will go live in the beta next week, next reset, so actually in just a few days we'll go live. The first in line, the one with the more changes, is Feral Druid. Feral Druid has gotten a few new talents and a few reworked already existing talents. You have Protective Growth, which is a brand new talent, making your regrowth protect you, reducing all damage you take by 3 and then 6% while it's on you. So it's a freebie, 6% damage reduction. You have Improved Bleeds right here, is now only going to take 1 point instead of 2. There is a new talent also that will happen right around here. Pouncing Strikes grants extra damage and combo points to Shred and Rake when striking from stealth. Tireless Energy was one of your starting points on its own that didn't lead to anywhere right here. Now, instead of having 3 ranks, it has 2 ranks only, so it takes you 1 less point to max this out. There is a change to one of your capstone choice talents between Predator and Sabertooth. Now Sabertooth doesn't extend the duration of your rip on the target by 1 second per combo point. Now instead makes your Ferocious Bite increase the damage of your rip by 4% per combo points for the next 4 seconds. It adds a little bit more complexity, so you want to Ferocious Bite and then right after you have 4 seconds, 5 seconds where you can do more damage with your rip, if you can use rip right after Ferocious Bite. There is a new talent that might help Druid in multi-target situations. Double Clawed Rake. Rake now also applies Rake to 1 additional nearby target. So this is going to help you save GCDs when you're trying to spread your Rake, your dot, to multiple targets. There is a change also to Sudden Ambush. Now finishing moves have a 5% chance per combo point to act as if you were striking from stealth, although it now only has 2 ranks instead of 3, so it goes up to 10% with 2 points rather than 9% with 3 points. There is also a new talent on the 5th row of Druid called Tear Open Wounds. Primal Wrath consumes up to 4 sets of rip damage on targets it hits and deals 75% of it instantly, which is good for instant damage. After you applied your dots, you can start doing a little bit more burst damage, which is always one of the main weaknesses of Feral Druid when it comes to AoE. Another help can be Ferocious Frenzy, a new talent on the 6th row of Druid. Ferocious Bite now also hits enemies within 8 yards affected by your rip for 25% of the damage done. Again, more AoE splash damage with your single target finisher, Ferocious Bite, to help you with more AoE damage in Mythic Plus packs. There is going to be a new choice node on the 7th row of Feral Druid between Raging Fury. Finishing moves extend the duration of Tiger's Fury by 0.2 seconds per combo point spent, or Frantic Momentum. Finishing moves have a 3% chance per combo point spent to grant 10% haste for 6 seconds. They're also adding yet another combo to your Exodia of Berserk talents. You already have this Berserk, and then you have this Berserk Frenzy, and then you have this Berserk Jungle Stalker to add to your repertoire of Berserk powers. Now you also have Berserk Heart of the Lion. Each combo point spent reduces the cooldown of Berserk by half a second. Brutal Slash, your already existing AoE ability for Feral, has now been turned into a choice node. Now you can choose to keep Brutal Slash, or you can change it for Wild Slashes, which now just simply makes your Thrash and your Swipe deal 20% more damage. So without having this extra ability, just empowering your already existing AoE spells. Another change of the Feral tree is that this choice talent, Feral Frenzy, has now been turned into a standalone talent that you can pick aside from Blood Talons. Now, Blood Talons is going to have another options to choose from, aside from it, which is Bite Force. Ferocious Bite and Rip now deal flat out 10% more damage. So very similar to the choice node of Brutal Slash, now you can just take a passive node without having to take an extra ability to just do flat out more damage. The passive choice here to do more AoE damage, and the passive choice here to do more single target damage. Then for last you have this unfinished talent being removed, modal cooldown bonus for Ashamane's Guidance. Gives your auto attacks a chance to trigger Incarnation for 6 seconds, or to reduce the cooldown of Convoke the Spirits duration for 25%, and gives it an increased chance to trigger a powerful ability, depending on whether or not you are taking Convoke or Incarnation. So the power increase of the choice node is getting changed. Many other things are getting removed. The choice node here, Drought of Deep Focus, is getting removed. You get Savage Roar right here, also gets removed. Improved Shred and Improved Prowl right down these two lines are also getting removed, and the Improved Tiger's Fury right here is also getting removed. We will see the final build in the next few days when it gets into the beta. You know, at the end of the day, one of the major issues for Feral Druid is the fact that, you know, it used to be this 714 IQ rotation where you had to carefully place all of your dots, start thinking about the pandemic timers, start snapshotting your dots after using Tiger's Fury and all of that. And then, what the hell is this? I'm just a cat biting people. Where's my dot damage? Why am I just doing Ferocious Bite damage and nothing else? That's kind of turned into the problem for Feral for a long time, most of their damage coming from Ferocious Bite. In AoE, of course, it was different. It was much more rake damage and much more rip damage for your dots, but your AoE was super weak, because that's all you had. You had some help from the tier set, which you are losing in Dragonflight, the tier set for instant damage when you enter Berserk, but it was not nearly enough. So one of the main wishes, likely, especially if you want to delve deep into Mythic Plus for a Feral Druid, is to get some more power in AoE, some ways to do more AoE damage more quickly, other than having to spend several seconds, several GCDs to apply multiple dots, because the enemies are already dying by the time you have applied them. So you want a little bit of a faster way to do AoE damage, which is kind of the same problem and the same situation Assassination Rogue has been for a long time. So we will see if either of these two dot-based spec will find a way to become more relevant in Mythic Plus in Dragonflight, thanks to these talents. Now, for Resto Druid, there are fewer changes. It's not as drastic as the amount of changes for Feral. There are a couple of seemingly useless power increases, like Nature's Splendor. The healing bonus to regrowth from Nature's Swiftness is increased by 50%. So when you use your Instacast ability, your next regrowth is increased, which is, you know, it's okay, but it doesn't look that strong. Maybe in PvP, maybe. Flash of Clarity is going to be a follow-up to Omen of Clarity. It's going to make your clear-casted regrowths also be 30% stronger. Where it starts getting a little bit more interesting is a new talent being added, Waking Dream, as a support for Ysera's Gift. Ysera's Gift now still heals the same, but now it also heals for an additional 5% for each of your active rejuvenations. So this is it's still not like a powerful talent, but in the raid it becomes more useful, of course, when you have something like 15 rejuvenations up at the same time. So this is healing for like 70% more because of the amount of rejuves you have active. Not to mention, you can still take things like Germination to double rejuvenation players and take even more value. It's too bad that the talent itself, Ysera's Gift, is not, you know, it's not a very powerful one for your healing. A much more powerful one, a much more powerful talent is going to be Nurturing Dormancy, a new talent added in the 6th row of the Resto Druid Tree. So around this line, Nurturing Dormancy is going to make so that when your rejuvenation heals a target at full HP, the duration of reju is going to be extended by 3 seconds, and this can happen up to 9 seconds extension per rejuvenation you are casting. So if one of your rejus happen to be healing a target at full HP 3 times, it's going to be extended by 3 and then 3 and then 3 seconds for 9 seconds extra in total. Don't forget, the General Tree of Druid also has the 3 seconds extension to rejuvenation. So Your default duration of Reju is 12 seconds. It can be extended to 15 seconds, and then with this new talent it can also be extended up to 24 seconds of rejuvenation if it keeps healing targets at full HP. Which is something, if you have played Druid, but also if you haven't played Druid but you are a healer, that you will see very often in a raid. Because the Druid is blanket healing, is blanket spamming rejuvenation on all the raid, very often this healing over time is just going to continue healing someone at full HP. So this can help a lot, saving global cooldowns from Resto Druid, because their Rejus will last much longer on targets when damage is not really coming in. So it's going to help you be able to use your global cooldowns, your time, for other spells, other than continuing to spam rejuvenation instead. There is also a cool shifting power-like extension to your Tranquility. So likely it's going to come around here, right after Tranquility itself. While channeling Tranquility, your other Druid spell cooldowns are reduced by up to 10 seconds. So, Druid is not that relevant in terms of timings. It's not like a Discipline Priest or something. It's much more about using Rejuvenation non-stop and then using Wild Growth whenever it's up. So, your timing of cooldowns is not that great, but still, it's just a few extra bonuses to your Tranquility. There are then a couple of talents added to empower your Life Bloom. One is Verdancy, which is going to come around here. There's only 3 talents in here, so perhaps filling it up a little bit more with effects. One is going to be Verdancy. When Life Bloom blooms, up to 3 targets within your efflorescence, within your circle of healing on the ground, are also healed for a undisclosed amount. The next one is perhaps an even bigger buff to Life Bloom. It's called Budding Leaves in the 9th row of the talents towards the end. Life Bloom's healing is increased by 6% each time it heals, up to 90%, all the 15 stacks of your Life Bloom. Also increases the Life Bloom Final Bloom by 15%. Life Bloom is not really, has never really been one of your main healing abilities. Of course, never in the raid, because there is just way too many targets to heal for Life Bloom to be relevant, and not even in Mythic Plus, when you have 5 targets to heal. Even then, it's not that important, but you generally use it for the buffs you can gain from Life Bloom if you're playing with something like Photosynthesis, right? To give you buffs based on your Life Bloom applications. So I'm not too sure how powerful this is going to be. What is definitely going to be powerful, depending on the balancing and the tuning of the numbers, is going to be Embrace of the Dream. Another 9th row talent, so right at the bottom of the tree. Wild Growth has a 100% chance to momentarily shift your mind into the Emerald Dream, instantly healing all allies affected by your rejuvenation. That's why I said the balancing is going to be very important. Because as mentioned, in a raid environment, a Resto Druid will very often have 15 or more rejuvenations active on all players, which means that, healing all of them whenever you use Wild Growth can be quite significant. It's just gonna depend on exactly how much is the healing going to be. The last of the 9th row talent additions is going to be Regenerative Heartwood. Allies protected by Ironbark also receive 75% of the healing from each of your active rejuvenations. That's actually quite funny. Ironbark already has this extra improvement to reduce its cooldown by 20 seconds to make it a 70-second cooldown, plus this improvement to make you heal the target affected by Ironbark for an additional 20%, and now you have this to make all of the targets affected by Reju take 75% of that healing and share it with the target of your Ironbark. That's gonna be insane, but perhaps not really that needed in a raid environment. When one of your tanks is asking for a defensive, asking for an Ironbark, is also gonna get 75% of the healing of 13 extra rejuvenation on the entire raid. It's not that you need that much tank healing in the raid, to be that important. Perhaps maybe even in Mythic Plus is going to be more useful than in a raid environment. I'm not really sure about PvP, maybe, but you don't have that many players to gain the effect of multiple Rejus being added to a tank in an arena, for example. So I'm not too sure about that. It's one of those talents that feels very powerful, but at the end of the day, it's not really going to be that needed, is what I mean. We have only got gotten, however, unlike Feral Druid, the additions that are going to happen for Resto Druid and not what is getting removed. We have just mentioned, for example, three different talents being added in this row. This last row is already quite crowded, right? So very hardly it's gonna get extended by 3 more talents. So some of these are gonna go away, some of these are gonna get removed, others are gonna get shifted in other places. We will have to see in a couple of days, by Wednesday or Thursday, when the next build of the beta will go live. We will actually see the full completed version of the Resto Druid Tree after these additions. Talking about Druid, now that they have gotten changes finally, I'm still a little bit off on their General Tree, more so than their specs. I'm sure their specs still need adjustments. I'm just a little bit off on their General Tree and how starkly divided it is between the Resto and Balanced Druid side and then the Feral and Guardian side. I think it's just way too bad for a Resto or Balanced Druid to delve deep into this side, and also way too bad for a Guardian or a Feral Druid to delve deep into this side. This is not a problem when you're playing Shaman. There is no clear side for Enhancement, Elemental or Resto. It's not a problem for Paladin. There is no clear side for Ret, Prot and the Holy Paladin. It's not even a problem for Monk. For Monk it is a little bit, but not as much for the Mistweaver, Brewmaster and Moonwalker side, but for Druid it is definitely the biggest of the problems. It's just way too divided, way too hard for the spell power side to mingle and meddle with the attack power side of the tree. I would like to see, after these Feral and Resto Druid changes, also some adjustments to the General Tree of Druid. Make it easier to reach certain nodes depending on your spec. I am of course talking about things like Skullbash being more easily reachable by the healers and the damage dealers from range of Druid. You know, at the end of the day, here is your healer, Holy Paladin. Extremely simple rebuke to take, you know. You only have to spend 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points and you get your interrupt. The same discussion can be had for Mistweaver. 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's your interrupt. Whereas for Druid, it's much harder. You have to spend at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. Plus, it's also way too deep down this tree with things you don't want. So that's my main issue for the General Tree of Druid so far. However, with this being said, this is all we have to point out for today. There's no more main news as we keep waiting, of course. Where is it? As we keep waiting for our beta access, which we don't have yet, of course, because why would I? Why would I have a beta access, right? After all, and it's not that I'm making videos about WoW. We're going to continue waiting, and for the moment we don't really have much else to talk about. We're gonna have to wait, I guess, in the next couple of days for more news about the next build in the beta of Dragonflight. For now, I'm going to leave you to the rest of your weekend, of your Sunday. Thank you guys for watching as usual. A round of applause to all of my Patreon supporters. Thank you guys for allowing me to continue to produce content for WoW, even though we are kind of handicapped right now without having access to the beta. I can't bring as much content as I would for you. That's quite sad, but it's gonna change. It's gonna change eventually. No need to get too much despair right now. I'm gonna wait and be patient for the moment before I spaz out completely triggered about the situation. You can of course support me by liking and commenting down below on this video, as well as subscribing to the channel itself. Not to mention, you can also follow me on Twitter right over there at this link, together with subscribing to my Patreon as well. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys soon, and in the meantime, I wasn't joking. The camera is coming back soon. I'm just having some issues because, as usual, my weathermen and forecast women are all hacks and frauds, and it's been a little bit hotter than expected. And also, there's a little bit of a pinch of laziness, if we have to be honest.